It all began with a quiet dinner at home. Just me and my husband, Nate. We'd been married for 6 years, and though things weren't always perfect, we shared a bond built on love and trust, or at least that's what I believed. That night, Nate came home later than usual. His tie was loosened, and his face was tight, as though he'd just fought a battle. I assumed it was just another rough day at the office. I'd made his favorite, chicken parmesan, and set the table with 2 glasses of wine, ready to offer him comfort. He smiled and kissed my cheek, saying, "You always know how to turn my day around." I wish I could go back to that moment. I still remember the warmth in his eyes, the tenderness before everything changed. We sat down, clinking our glasses in a quiet toast. At first, the conversation flowed easily. Work, the new dog our neighbors adopted, plans for weekend. Then, somewhere between dessert and the last sip of wine, Nate leaned forward. His tone shifted to something more serious. "There's something I need to ask you," he said, almost in a whisper. My heart skipped. "Okay, what's up?" I replied, trying to mask the sudden unease creeping in. He hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck, looking like he was preparing to say something he never imagined he would. "It's not something I ever thought I'd ask. And I don't want you to think I'm crazy," he began. I laughed nervously. "Now you've really got me curious." He looked me in the eye, his expression unreadable. "I want you to meet someone. Her name's Claire." For a moment, I thought he meant a colleague, or perhaps a friend from college. But the way he said her name, the weight in his voice, told me this was far from casual. "Who is Claire?" I asked slowly, every part of me tensing. Nate took a deep breath, as though bracing himself for what was coming next. "She's someone I met a few months ago. We didn't plan for it, but I started seeing her. I didn't tell you because I didn't know how serious it would get, but now I need to be honest. And I need your help." I was stunned. My hands froze around the stem of my wine glass, the room tilting around me. "You're seeing someone else?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded, guilt flickering across his face. "I know this hurts. I never wanted to do this to you, but the truth is, I care about both of you, and I don't want to lose either of you." I couldn't process what I was hearing. The man I married, my best friend, was sitting across from me, calmly telling me about another woman, as though this was something we could just work through. "Claire knows about you. She respects you," Nate continued. "Last night, I asked her if she'd be willing to meet you. She said yes. I want you to meet her too. I think it might help all of us find clarity." For a long moment, I couldn't speak. My mind was racing, filled with questions. Why now? What did he expect would come of this? Was he asking for forgiveness? Or was this something else entirely? "You want me to meet the woman you've been cheating on me with?" I asked, my voice a mixture of disbelief and raw emotion. "It's not like that," he said quickly. "It's complicated. We're not sneaking around anymore. I want to be honest. I need to figure out what this means for all of us. I don't expect anything from you. But if you could meet her, it might help us all find some clarity." I stood up, my hands trembling. "Nate, do you even hear yourself? You're asking me to sit down with a woman who's come into our marriage without any warning." He reached for me, his voice soft but insistent. "Please, just think about it. Don't give me an answer right now." I walked out of the room before I could say something I'd regret. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts spinning in circles. Part of me wanted to scream, to leave, to never look back. But another part, one I didn't want to admit existed, was curious. Who was this woman? What was so special about her that Nate would risk everything? The next morning, I left the house before he woke up. I spent the day walking to the park, drinking coffee at a little cafe I used to visit before we got married, trying to remember who I was before we became us. By the time I got home, I had made up my mind. "If I agree to meet her," I said as I walked into the kitchen, "it doesn't mean I accept what you did. It means I need answers." Nate nodded, relief and guilt mingling in his expression. "That's all I'm asking." A week later, we met Claire at a quiet, upscale restaurant on the edge of town. She was already there when we arrived, tall, elegant, with soft eyes and a calm, composed presence. She stood as we approached, smiling at me, not arrogantly, but with a sort of quiet respect. "Hi, Amelia," she said gently. "It's nice to meet you." I gave a polite nod, sitting down across from her. Nate sat between us, awkward and tense, clearly uncomfortable with the entire situation. The dinner was civil, though the atmosphere was strange and surreal. We didn't talk about feelings or betrayal, but about careers, travel, and favorite books. It wasn't as awful as I had imagined. In fact, Claire was kind, thoughtful, and annoyingly easy to talk to. When the check came, she looked at me with a mixture of sincerity and vulnerability. "I don't expect you to understand why this happened," she said softly. "But I want you to know I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to come between you." I nodded, still unsure what to say. "I don't know what's going to happen next," I replied, "but I needed to see who you were." We left the restaurant in silence, the ride home quiet until Nate finally spoke. "Thank you," he said, his voice laden with gratitude. "I know that wasn't easy." I turned to him, exhaustion clouding my thoughts. It still isn't over. In the weeks that followed, we didn't make any decisions. We just existed. I started going to therapy, and Nate did too. We talked more, sometimes painfully, sometimes honestly. And slowly, I realized this wasn't just about Claire. It was about us, about how far apart we drifted without even noticing. Eventually, Nate told me he needed time alone to figure things out. He moved into a small apartment across town. We agreed to put everything on pause and give ourselves space. I can't say I forgave him, not yet, but I began forgiving myself. Forgiving myself for ignoring the signs, for believing love meant never questioning, for forgetting that sometimes love means walking away, even when part of you wants to stay. And that's where I am now, somewhere between heartbreak and healing. I still don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. Last night, my husband asked me to do something impossible, and I did it. Not for him, but for me.